Introduction. If you stand on the cliffs of Filey and look out over the midday sea, you'll see the boats of fishermen heading home with their catch. For 800 years, fishermen of Filey have done the same. They have fished the same waters, sheltered in the same bay, faced the same hazards of the unpredictable North Sea. Filey has the largest coble fishing fleet of the northeast coast, but it is rapidly dwindling. What 15 years ago was a flourishing industry with nearly 40 cobles, worked by more than 100 full-time men, and a host of part-timers has shrunk to 14 cobles, crewed by a mere 40 men. 5 cobles, usually with a 3-man crew, have ceased fishing from Filey in the last 2 years. The cobblemen left blamed the inshore trawlers for their lot. Ever since fishing began here, Filey has, more or less, lived off one piece of ground, the High Rock and West Rock grounds, where fish, lobsters and crabs are caught. Those grounds were their main source of income. The fishermen's year is divided into 2 major parts. From October to March they go lining for cod, haddock and dabs, and from March to October is the potting season with crabs and lobsters as the catch. As a variation on this, during the summer months they take fishing trips off, sporting as it is called. But whatever the type of professional fishing, the ritual is the same. Up at 4:30 in the morning and a short walk along Queen Street to the lookout point at the top of the cliff to check on the sea and wind conditions, and then down to the boats where all the other fishermen are discussing the topics of the day and pulling each other's legs. It's a peaceful sail out to the fishing grounds when the weather's not too bad, a time for contemplation, admiring the sunrise, a check on the shipping forecast. Sights of Flamborough Head were pointed out to me, the remains of a submarine which broke free of its tug. Nobody can remember the date. Also the place where 2 jet fighters failed to make it above the cliff top. A fascinating rock formation gives the impression of a vaulted cathedral roof. Soon we come to the fishing grounds, which the fishermen know like the backs of their hands. They need to, because an accurate repositioning of the pots based on the catch is vital. We approach the first marker buoy and haul it into the boat. This is followed by an anchor, and shortly after the first of the 25 pots in the line. Nothing in it, but very soon we are pulling in crabs. The pots are lifted on board by the winch and then opened and cleaned out. There are a lot of starfish which are thrown back, and the crabs are put into the boxes. The pot is rebaited with fish. The head is the preferred bait, and it is placed in the boat. The last pot is brought up, followed by another anchor which marks the end of the line. Keith and Charlie have a short discussion which is undecipherable, so I ask. It appears that each spot can, in effect, be marked by sight lines from several points on shore, for which the fishermen have colloquial names for, enabling them to explain precisely where the pots should be laid. We turn onto a new heading and start by throwing the anchor over, followed by each pot in turn, finishing up with the marker buoy again. Time taken? About 50 minutes, and there are 8 to do before returning. We got back to the shore just before noon and sailed onto our pair of wheels. Bert, the tractor driver, pulled us onto our berth and we unloaded the boxes of crabs and 12 pounds of lobsters which comprised the catch. I asked how we had done, and Keith reckoned that we should have caught half as much again, and shrugged. They take the ups and downs very calmly. I too felt relaxed, and although it had been hard graft, it was very satisfying, fulfilling one of the basic needs of life, that of provider, in one of the oldest ways known. After lunch it was down to the local and a chat with the other fishermen. Lots of banter, some serious talk and drinking in moderation. Later that afternoon the bait had to be fetched from Scarborough, pots had to be mended, and there was always the general maintenance needed on a sea-going boat. I noticed especially that they took immense care over the diesel engine, and a lot of time is needed to keep it in perfect order. But accidents can always happen. Just 2 weeks after I'd been out, their propeller shaft broke, and they were left drifting. Fortunately it was good weather, and they were not in any danger. They were towed in by another coble. but if the conditions had been difficult. The families of Filey are steeped in fishing traditions. The four main family names of Camish, Kappelman, Jenkinson and Johnson are on name boards throughout the town. Kappelmans are bakers, Jenkinsons are fish merchants. But they are still fishing. The Jenkinson family have 4 cobles all crewed by themselves. All the fishermen have their own nicknames as well. Some are fairly straightforward, such as Dick and Jim Haxby are called the Haxbys, and Charlie Robinson is nicknamed Charlie Billy. But then they start to get vaguer. Tom Jenkinson is known as Titch, so his son is Billy Titch. Frank Boynton is Rammy. Edward Jenkinson, sailing in Research A, is nicknamed Sailor, after his father, but Richard Jenkinson is Snosh, and John Jenkinson is Bonzo. These men also crew the local lifeboat. Needless to say, it is a Jenkinson who is the cox, Tom this time. Fishermen also have traditional sweaters called ganzies, usually knitted by their wives. These are made of a heavy oiled wool and are very warm indeed. Each fishing town have their own designs based on the ladder, rope and diamond patterns. Filey has 5 separate designs, more than any other town. The ganzies are knitted in the round, using 5 needles and working from the bottom upwards. The sleeves finish about 4 or 5 inches short. This is to keep them as dry as possible whilst at sea. Also, the initials are stitched into the sweater. This is said to be done in order to aid identification if they are lost at sea. The local Norman church bears witness to the many, often brothers, who have lost their lives fishing the North Sea.